Welcome to Bridges and Tunnels. Mr. Bowden, we await your remarks.
My name is Murray Bowden. I live in Hartsdale, New York. My birthday is June 11, 1933, and that information is for when they electronically want to look up this meeting. One of the problems, this organization is an extension of what? Triborough Bridge and Tunnel. Robert Moses. I'm reading his book again. And we're stuck with unwinding what he did. When he did it, everybody thought he was doing the right thing, but as it had turned out, it was the wrong thing. He was interested in the automobile, not a mass transit, over and over again. What I'd like to talk about today is this guide signs that Bridge and Tunnel is using all over. You're putting new ones in. You, of course, can see how many lanes this is, and you, of course, can see where each lane goes, or can you? This is used in a number of places, and you can obviously see there are 3 lanes. The middle lane goes to both Brooklyn and Queens. I have to keep checking, see. My grandchildren are going to watch this. This one is called a diagrammatic sign. You're putting them up. It has been made illegal in California for one simple reason. It does not give you the information that the driver needs. How do you make this standard? Could you please pass this out to the board? Adrian, where are you when we need you? Each of the board members, I've made a copy for each of you to take back to your respective jurisdictions. This is a cultural change. Robert Moses set in place the inability to think ahead, to change. What comes up over and over in his book is, you're going to do it my way or else. Well, or else is the wrong way to do it. Right out there in Battery Park, he wanted to build a bridge to Staten Island. Fortunately, President Roosevelt stopped him, and we have a tunnel. And if you look down, you can see the beautiful view from here, which would have had a bridge in it. How do you undo the cultural thinking that's fossilized? Not easy, but we're getting there. Commissioner, I want to thank you very much for arranging the meeting. It was excellent. Your staff is very good. They heard me. I heard them. We're going forward. Can't do this with Bridge and Tunnel. I'd like to meet with people in Bridge and Tunnel and duplicate what was happening in New York City DOT, planning how to transition to the future, planning how to put in place solutions to problems that we haven't been able to do before. We know it can be done. Can't you do it too?
Thank you, Mr. Bowden. Can you wrap up? Thank you. Okay, moving the agenda. That concludes our public speakers. Okay, the approval of minutes. Second. All in favor? Opposed? Carries. Any changes to the committee work plan? Okay, and with that, I will turn things over for operations to our distinguished president.
Thank you.
The report on operations begins on page 16. Traffic was higher in February by 6.9% with 20 million crossings as compared with 18.7 million crossings in February 2014. Precipitation in February 2015 totaled 2 inches of rain and 15.2 inches of snow versus 4.9 inches of rain and 27.8 inches of snow in February 2014. February 2015 gas prices averaged $2.33 per gallon, which is $1.28 lower than in February 2014. Easy Pass volume increased by 7.7% in February 2015 as compared to February 14, while crossings using cash and other payment methods increased 2.3% for the month. Passenger car travel was up 7.1%, and other vehicle travel increased by 4.7% from February 14. Preliminary monthly traffic figures for March 2015 are 1.48% more than the same period last year. This ends the report on operations.
If there are no questions, we'll move on to the safety report. Jim?
On pages 30 and 31 of the charts and graphs showing the 5-year summary of customer collisions and injury collisions and employee accident reports and lost time injuries, and the 5-year summary of contractor injuries through February 2015. As you can see on page 30, the total customer collisions are up this month 8.7%, and injury collision rates are down 19%. On page 31, the number of employee lost time injuries for the year have decreased 20.6%. Please review these reports. Unless there are any questions, that concludes my report. Thank you.
If there are no questions, we'll move on to the Easy Pass performance report and financial report by Don Spero.
Thanks, Jim. The Easy Pass report begins on page 32. Our market share for February was 85.2%, up 0.6 percentage points from the year before. Almost 14,300 Easy Pass accounts were opened in February, including more than 7,300 on-the-go accounts, which was 51% of the total. I just want to touch on the on-the-go tags for a minute, if you don't mind. You won't see it reflected in this report because it only goes through February, but this week we'll reach 500,000 on-the-go tags sold in the lane since the program began late 2011, completed in 2012, these in-lane sales. So it's a pretty extraordinary accomplishment, obviously. What you'll see in future reports is the recent surge we've seen since the toll increase. Just to give you a sense, we're up 58% over the last 5 weeks since the toll increase versus the previous year. And the biggest increase has actually come at the RFK Bronx, which is actually up 138% from the same period last year. Of course, that's the facility with our lowest market share, so hopefully we'll see that translate into higher market share at that facility. If there's no questions on the Easy Pass report, I'll move on to the financial report.
I was going to mention that. Andy and I were just talking to see whether or not the new signs we put up.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that. I should have mentioned the new signs. Yes.
Discount, the real discount, as opposed to the perceived discount,
Right.
Is going to have an impact on people realizing that all they got to do is set up an account and they get whatever it is they get off.
No, I think it's done a great job getting people's attention. That also just, the ability to be able to sell our reload card and our pay per trip, those things all contributing.
Yeah, so I'll be interested to see the market share, maybe not April when, beginning to start, but starting in May, we'll be interested to see what the market share does in that regard, to see how much of an impact it really has had. Yeah.
It should help.
Yep, thank you.
Right.
Right,
That's
yep.
right. Okay, so moving on to the financial report on page 38. Total revenue through February was $239.6 million, about 0.5% better than planned, $1.2 million. Expenses were $62.3 million through February, $6.5 million, 9.5% lower than planned. Non-labor costs were about 20% below plan due to timing, and labor costs about 2.5%, $1 million below plan, primarily due to payroll vacancies. Overtime was down about $400,000, 8.8% against the budget year to date, despite the difficult winter that we had. And our support to mass transit was about $138 million through February, about $14.9 million, 12.1% better than planned. There's no questions on the February financial report. I'll quickly move on to the year-end operating results, which are on page 52. I talked about this at the February meeting, the year-end results, so I'll just go over these quickly. It's in the book, obviously. The total revenue for the year was $1.676 billion, 0.5% better than our final estimate. Traffic up about 0.6% against the final estimate. Total non-reimbursable expenses were 8%, almost 8% lower than the final estimate due to lower non-labor costs from the timing of expenses and also lower labor costs due to the vacancies on the payroll side. For the year, overtime came in at $21.4 million, 6% better than planned, about $1.4 million. And our support to mass transit last year was almost $993 million, about $61 million better than our final estimate.
So we assume in 2015, we're going to hit $1 billion.
It will go over $1 billion, I think. That's a safe bet.
That's what we're going to say.
Yeah.
Safe bet.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. The reason we're here.
We shall see. We shall see.
Okay, let's move on to the capital program review. Joe Kane.
The capital program status report starts on page 78. In March, there were 2 commitments made with a total value of $2.3 million. The most significant commitment made was a $1.9 million small business mentoring program contract for removal of tunnel ceiling panels at the Queens Midtown Tunnel under our Sandy restoration program. Year to date, we've made 11 commitments with a total value of $24.1 million, compared to a plan calling for 10 commitments with a value of $24.3 million. There was 1 project completion in March, a $2.5 million design completion for miscellaneous steel repairs at the Marine Parkway Bridge. Year to date, we have realized 2 completions with a total value of $145 million, which is approximately 70% of our planned 2015 completions of $208.5 million. There were 4 task level closeouts for $4 million. Year to date, we have had 5 tasks closed with a total value of $7.7 million. And finally, I'm pleased to report that last week, the major project for restoration of Queens Midtown Tunnel was awarded in the amount of $236.5 million. Unless there are any questions, that concludes the report.
The Queens Midtown, that's Sandy, part of that is Sandy related?
Yes.
Yeah.
Part of that is, not all of it, but part of it.
Mostly Sandy and some capital work as well.
Okay.
With that, we have no procurements this month, but we do have an action item on the Verrazano Narrows rebate program. General Counsel Peg Terry.
Good afternoon. In today's walk-on action item, we are asking the committee to recommend that the board adopt the proposed revisions to the Staten Island resident rebate and V&B commercial rebate programs at the Verrazano Narrows Bridge that were adopted by the board in February 2014 and implemented by TBTA retroactive to April 1st, 2014. The MTA's Staten Island resident rebate program is for residents of Staten Island participating in the Staten Island Resident Easy Pass Toll Discount Plan, while the V&B Commercial Rebate Program is for commercial vehicles making more than 10 trips per month using the same New York Customer Service Center Easy Pass account. Under the proposed revisions to the 2015-2016 rebate programs, $7 million of the cost for the resident rebate program and $7 million of the cost for the commercial rebate program are to be funded equally by the state and the MTA, with the state's contribution provided by appropriations to the MTA. An additional $3.3 million in appropriations is being provided by the state to the MTA to keep an effective toll rate of $5.50 for Staten Island residents under the rebate program. That is the effective toll rate before the March 22nd, 2015 toll increase. Under the proposed revisions to the resident rebate program, the MTA would rebate 74 cents of the $6.24 toll paid by Staten Island residents with 3 or more trips across the bridge per month, and $1.10 of the $6.60 toll paid by residents with 1 or 2 trips across the bridge during the month, which again keeps the effective toll rate at $5.50. Under the proposed revisions to the V&B commercial rebate program, the initial rebate would be 18% of the Easy Pass toll for eligible commercial vehicles, while the rebate would be applied to the total amount of eligible tolls in a given month. The effective toll rates for the various classes of vehicles are listed in the staff summary. Implementing an 18% rebate rather than the 20% rebate used in last year's program is expected to ensure that the $7 million allocated for the commercial rebate program is sufficient to provide funding from April 1st, 2015 through March 31st, 2016. If, however, we estimate that unexpected toll activity would deplete the MTA and state funds allocated for the program before the end of the state fiscal year, we may reduce the rebate to a percentage sufficient to provide a rebate through March 31st, 2016. We expect that it would take some time to implement the revised V&B rebate programs, but the rebates would be applied retroactively to April 1st, 2015 and continue through March 31st, 2016. These programs would continue into future years without specific board approval, provided that MTA's annual contribution does not exceed $7 million. The MTA Board approves a budget that includes MTA's contribution to such program, and the state provides to MTA funds sufficient for at least half the expenses of each annual period. We ask that you approve this recommendation.
Chairman's prerogative, I'll move the item. Well, let's get a second and then, okay.
About mid-May, we should be able to implement it retroactive to April 1st. Yeah.
What happens, if I understand what you said completely, this program goes into effect at a certain number on April 1st. Whenever we implement it, it goes back to April 1st, 2015. Correct?
I'm not sure I understand your question.
Well,
Go ahead.
you indicated that there may not be enough money, there may not be enough money to cover the commercial rebate program from April 1st, 2015 to March 31st, 2016.
Right.
Okay. You don't know that today.
Right.
You won't know that until we assume at some point the money will run out before March 31st, 2016. Maybe.
It may run out.
May run out, right, maybe. When you decide that, May 29th, February 1st, 2016, whenever you decide that the amount of money left will no longer cover the expense through March 31st, 2016, I thought you then said that you would recalibrate the rebate program.
But not retroactively?
Right, so going forward. But my question is, let's assume for the moment,
Right.
you decide on February 1st, 2016, that collectively, we don't have enough money to make it go through March 31st.
At the 18% level?
At the 18%. So therefore, you have a 2-month period in which, from what I understand you saying, the rate would go up to whatever number the rate
The
has to go
toll
up
would
to.
go up, the rebate would go down.
Right. There'd be some financial.
Yes.
Okay. So my question is, can you do that on the same day you make the decision? Or is there a lead time between the day you decide there's no more money, or let me strike that, the day you decide there may not be enough money, and the day in which the actual toll and rebate numbers change?
I'll defer to Don Spiro on this, but you have to remember the commercial rebate is provided on all tolls incurred in a month.
Right.
So that we don't post the rebate to their account until the middle of the following month. Don?
Peg is right, so we'll be tracking it all year.
Right.
So in your example, we would have to decide probably by early to mid-January whether or not to reduce the rebate in February and March from
Right,
18%.
Right, because then, because of what you just said, let's assume February, let's assume you decide to change the numbers, okay? So somebody on their rebate, whatever they get back, from what you said, the middle of March for February, will get a different number than they anticipated getting, or a different number than they got for January of 2016. That's the assumption.
That's
how
correct.
you assume we're going to
That is
have to work
correct,
out.
yes.
Okay, okay. I wanted to make sure I understood specifically
do.
what you said. Fine.
Mitch, if I could sum it up, there's potential for the rate decrease to be floating throughout the year. And it will be based on the assumptions of traffic going forward to the end of the program. And as Don said, we track it every month because the billing follows the use.
From what you're saying, there's no legal requirement, either in state law or our regulations, which require us to give people a certain amount of lead time before we can change the number. Because obviously, when we change the tolls, there is a variety of lead time. We got all kinds of things we got to do, and it takes us 90 to 120 days or whatever it is, okay? In this case, my assumption is there are no legal restrictions to changing the number, I don't want to use the term immediately, but to some degree, within a much shorter period of time.
You are correct. We adopt toll increases in accordance with the State Administrative Procedure Act.
Right.
The rebate, both these rebates and the Cross-Bay rebates, are adopted solely as a matter of, and it's really MTA Board policy, although TBTA Board has to approve it because we implement it. But
Right.
it's the MTA's money. And so it's a policy decision. It's not imposed by statute. It's not part of our
Okay,
toll schedule.
so we can change it, I don't want to use the term unilaterally, but with far less legal regulations and the way we have to do it than we would do on a normal toll situation.
You are correct.
Exactly, Mitch. It's not affecting the toll schedule at all.
At all.
It's simply a rebate okay.
Fine. And this applies to commercial vehicles who are coming from Brooklyn
I understand.
or
Right,
Long
right,
Island
right.
or whatever. It's not
Wherever it
just-
is, but
Okay,
But we can do that
administratively,
ourselves.
yes.
Thank you.
Okay, call the question. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, motion carries.
And that ends our report.
All in that, motion to adjourn.
So move.
Okay, meeting's adjourned. Thank you all for coming.